All right, we're gonna put it in today. That's what she said. All right, if you guys follow the channel, you probably remember that 4A GZE swapped Corolla. And there it is. Why is the engine out, you're asking? I have the original engine that was out of this car, torn down, all the accessories and everything on the new engine already. So what new engine is it? So I already dressed this guy, but luckily the customer found a rebuilt 4A GZE long block. So long block means the head and the block down in SoCal. So he picked this guy up instead of rebuilding that thing. So initially the customer wanted to get this done by January 10th. The car's been in the shop since November 20th of last year. So going on a little more than 2 months, and I'll tell you exactly why. So again, the customer was trying to make a January 10th track day. I told him, let's not rush getting this finished just so we can make a track day. You know, let's have this good for, you know, the next 5-10 years. Let's do it right, so you don't have that regret of you see this in the car and you were like, oh, should have changed that, or oh, should have done this or that. What are some things we did to this? So Jsp Engine Mounts, our aftermarket oil filter sandwich, needs to be clocked this way. So because the Jsp mounts have this cutout, this is exactly what we need. This is dressed already, but a lot of stuff like the brackets, dipstick tube. There's a plate in the back that is already all powder coated. A water pump pulley. Every single hose on this guy got replaced. So brand new silicone vacuum hoses, brand new coolant hoses. Here's another coolant bracket that we powder coated. 1-inch hose from Vibrant. This is for the ABV for the supercharger. You can see pretty cool. This is a front exit. Normally this points backwards, and we do front exit for the front mount intercooler. Intake brace is powder coated. Again, brand new hoses. There's a hose that runs back here to the upper water neck. Brand new hose. I think I powder coated the fitting on that thing too. Injector is flow tested and cleaned by our neighbor Sake Bomb. Thank you guys. The intake, if you look at my Instagram, there is one, and then there's a plug back there too. But these Allens, these are the EGR ports, so these absolutely get crusted up with EGR gunk. So I took these plugs out, and this intake is spotless on the inside and outside. Customer had a throttle sticking issue on this car, which was tough to see while the engine's installed, but it became very evident what was happening when I had the throttle body out. So this throttle stop was actually wound all the way up, so there was an air gap between the throttle stop and then this physical Allen screw throttle stop. So what was happening was, when this thing would close hard, the butterfly inside the throttle body would slam shut and get jammed in there. So I made sure that this was fully closed. You could see no daylight through the butterfly, and then now, yeah, no more throttle sticking. Right, brand new hose. Yeah, alternator bracket powder coated. Even though this was built by a machine shop, I still like to double check everything, including the valve adjustment. In my experience, a lot of aluminum cylinder heads, the head needs to be bolted to the block to get an accurate valve adjustment. And sure enough, there was at least 2 or 3 valves that were a hair too tight for my liking on this guy. So valves got properly adjusted on this guy. I personally prefer to leave the transmission in the car. It's actually not a big deal for me to line up the input shaft. I don't need to do anything with the trans, so why take it out? If you notice, I put this piece of wood here because there's nothing to hold the bell housing from falling down. So if you look, this piece of wood acts like leverage, so that because it's held up here, it'll hold the bell housing up. This fuel hose for the conversion is a disaster, so I have some braided line that's gonna go here. This is the original fitting. If you guys don't know, this is a crimp fitting from OEM, but if you cut the crimp off, this is just a barb fitting. So we're just gonna use some fuel injection clamps and clamp a braided hose here. Now you see why the car's been here for so long. Put in work. Customer has these gigantic Stop Tech brakes from Garage Star. So he requested the Wilwood proportioning valve. I have this in line with the rears per Wilwood instructions. So made these lines, made this bracket, clears his voltage regulator. Properly depowered rack. I actually took this guy apart and took out the necessary seals and power steering stuff. So this is a properly depowered rack that I just did all the preload and re-greased this stuff with some proper Amsoil grease. So this should be really nice to use once we get the car running. New coolant hoses. Oh, almost forgot. New engine, so we're gonna put a new fuel filter. All right, so this has just been a short recap of this GZE swapped car. I should be able to get this guy running this week, and I am absolutely excited because this thing was fast before and I can't believe how fast it's gonna be now. Plus all the reliability and all the fixes we did on this guy. It took 2 months for me to finally make this video. If you guys ever get delayed responses from me, you know why. Next video will be hopefully the first start and then the running and driving of this guy. Catch you next time.
1 week later.
1 a.m. on a Saturday. I would say Friday night. It's actually Saturday morning. Oh joy. I forgot if it was a 1 week or 2 weeks ago that I made the GZE intro video, but here's where we're at now. Good and bad news. Engine's in. This guy actually runs really well. I just did the initial break-in, which is just put in some decent whatever oil, vary the RPM, let this come up to temp, and then the first oil and filter change. Nothing surprised me with the oil. It just smelled and looked like assembly lube, which is totally fine. I have this Amsoil break-in oil, so this is where we are going to actually seat the rings with. Pro tip, if you cut an Amsoil bottle in half, this guy actually threads into a 4A valve cover. So 4A GZE, pretty cool. The intercooler piping goes to a front mount. The old engine had a rod knock, and so I forgot if I mentioned it in the previous video, but we had to replace the oil cooler. So this is a 25 row coil, which is a little bit bigger than the Greddy oil cooler unit that the owner has. I had to shorten the AN lines, so I cut, I don't know, like 6 inches out of both lines, and then both of them are 90-degree fittings now. We are trying to get this California legal, so bar sticker. So I let the customer borrow my OEM manifold, and so this should be really close. Pretty much just got to set up the appointment. All the emission stuff is here. Everything works. Alright, so what's the bad news? So after doing the first break-in, to my surprise, I could see coolant dripping on the floor, and I was like, Jesus, what the hell? So, ends up, and I'll demonstrate on the old engine. So, ends up, when the engine comes up to temp, it's pissing out this weep hole right there. So that means the water pump's bad. I gotta take the front off and change the water pump on this guy. A lesson about listening to your gut feeling. So this long block was put together by a machine shop in SoCal. Included with the long block, there was the old whatever water pump came with this engine, and I saw it had been resealed. So my gut said we should just replace the water pump. I don't know why I didn't listen to my gut this time, but sure enough, it leaks from the weep hole at engine operating temp. So yeah, listen to your gut. I don't know if my gut has ever been wrong, and here I am eating time and eating my words. It's 1 a.m. on a Friday, and that says a lot. So, but otherwise we are getting close. There's still a lot of stuff for me to shake down, seat the rings, the proportioning valve, make sure that nothing leaks. I stress really shaking down the car before it goes to the customer, because the worst thing you can do is just toss the car to the customer, and then anything wrong, like a leak, a breakdown, anything happens to the customer after the customer trusted you and you release the car to them, and now there's something wrong again. So even if I gotta eat the time, I will thoroughly shake down every major job that comes in here. All right, so hopefully the next time we're back, I won't be here at 1 in the morning, and we will have a happy and healthy car. So far so good. This thing runs really smooth and revs up really well, so I have high hopes. This should be fast as hell once everything's buttoned up and not leaking. So catch you guys next time. Thanks for the support.